Hello, my name is Anita Butler, and this is my interpersonal communication project for Liberty University, spring term 2016, class HSCO 508. And next slide. My second slide would be table of contents. It will be going over what my PowerPoint will be about, my introduction, my overarching goal, enlarging the conversation, my background, behavioral blend, barriers to communication, noise pollution, my action plan, and last, my bibliography. Next slide. Okay, communication. Um, Coming into this course, I thought of communications as a form of talking, just two people having a conversation with each other. Never thought of how in-depth communication is and what all is required to be an effective communicator. My slide on communication is best viewed as a continuous, complex, collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning making, as Stewart told us in the book Bridges Not Walls. Next slide. Types of communication. We have verbal communication, which refers to the use of words and sounds to send a message to others. And then we have nonverbal communication. It refers to facial expressions, eye behavior, tone of voice, touch, dress, space, time, and timing. That usually affects how words are interpreted. Um, we are, well, let me speak for myself. When you think of communication, we all think of verbal because you have to actually be saying something. I did not think of nonverbal communication, how body language, eye contact, facial expressions, how those all do a form of talking and come off to someone else and as a form of communication. Next slide. What is interpersonal communication? Interpersonal communication is a type of communication that happens when the people involved talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the personnel. Sorry. Interpersonal communication. Someone giving off a message and someone giving feedback to it. With interpersonal communication, it's a lot more in depth than I thought it would be. It does require a lot more, and it does, when you have the concepts down pat, help you to be an overall better communicator and have better relationships with people that you do communicate with, whether in work, personal life, or in a ministry. Next slide. Goal of effective communication. To send a message with the intent to inform or question, and for the message to be fully understood by the receiving party. Uh, Basically, just when you're speaking to someone, you want to make sure that that message is getting across in an informative way. Any questions are being answered, and it's being received by the party that you want it to be received by. Next slide. My overarching goal. When I think about that, a lot of things came to mind. A lot of things after this course, I wanted to make a change in my communication and how to be more effective. Um, my overarching goal is to become a level one listener. Barry Allen, he defines level one listening as empathetic listening. Listeners refrain from judging the speaker and place themselves in the speaker's position. Right now, I would consider myself a level two, level three listener. I don't always actively listen. I don't always be empathetic when I'm listening to someone else. And at times I'm thinking of what I want to say while the person is talking. So I'm not necessarily being the best listener I can be. And that's something I do want to work on, especially with going into a career in counseling. I have to be able to be a level one listener to be able to assist my clients the best of my ability and to get what they're trying to say to me across in order for me to be able to be effectively able to assist them. I have to know exactly what they're saying to me. I also want to be able to communicate with others in an honest and open way. I want to always speak in a respectful and Christ-like manner. I will strive to put myself in others' positions when we are communicating to assure I'm considering their thoughts and feelings. As Barry Allen did say in our textbook, it is difficult to understand others until we learn to listen effectively to ourselves. Next slide. Enlarging the conversation. Be an empathetic listener by focusing, encouraging, and reflecting. Learn to be an active listener. Refrain from jumping to conclusions or assuming. Listen with patience. Maintain an open line of communication so that the person I'm speaking with, as well as myself, can be heard. So basically, with enlarging the conversation, it goes kind of back into my overarching goal. Be more of an active listener. Have patience when I'm listening. I'm not rushing the person that's talking or seeming on edge or in a hurry. Refrain from, as I typically do often, jumping to conclusion or assuming before the person is able to finish what they're talking about. Next slide. My background. I'm a 28-year-old African American woman. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. I'm a mother to 1 son. I have a bachelor's in liberal studies with a minor in psychology and sociology. And right now I'm currently at the University of Liberty obtaining a master's in human service counseling. Next slide. I will be our behavioral blend. It's the DISC that we discussed throughout the book. Active task-oriented, active people-oriented, passive people-oriented, and passive task-oriented. Next slide. My behavioral blend outcome, what is expected of me was ID, active, people-oriented, and active task-oriented. What is me was DI, active task-oriented, and active people-oriented. So basically, I was what they expected of me. The positive outcome of my behavioral blend is being inspiring, influencing, impressing, interested in people, and interactive. And these are traits that I do have. I'm very good with people. I like being around people. I like helping people. I like inspiring people. And I like to be an influencer or role model to the community and people that are around me. The negative outcome is not managing time well, too much opinion, being too opinionated, difficult distinguishing between being responsible and being popular, and mediocre listening skills. And these are all negative outcomes that I've realized after this course that I tend to have. I want to work on managing my time better. Stop procrastinating, stop waiting to the last minute, using my time to the best. I want to be more responsible, focus more on what my work is and not pleasing people or being the popular one. Next slide. Potential barriers to communication. Listening bias. I'm an interrupter. Formulate opinions. I overtalk others at times, and I offer solution before obtaining all the information. These are weaknesses that I struggle with when I communicate with people. Taking this course has brought a light to it. Next slide. My solutions to my barriers. Eye contact when communicating, allowing others to finish before I begin speaking, not always offering a solution, and displaying empathy. So I want to work on being more engaged, showing that I care and showing that I'm listening and I'm not just trying to jump the gun and solve it for you, let them talk, and allowing others to just vent sometime. Next slide. Noise pollution. We have internal and external. Internal, lack of concentration, hearing what you want to hear, being biased, and ineffective time management. External, busy office, uncomfortable setting, background noise, and temperature. These are things internal and external that cause distraction when communicating with others, as they call it, noise pollution. Next slide. So noise pollution solutions are internal, focusing more, active listening, and avoid assumptions. Paying attention more, being that active listener, that goes a long way when someone realizes that, hey, you're listening to me and you're wanting to hear what I have to say, and avoiding jumping the gun and assuming. External, eliminating being distracted and making the environment comfortable. Focus when someone's talking to me and not having my mind on what I want to focus on. Next slide. My final slide, action plan. My action plan is to manage time more effectively, avoid noise pollution, memorize steps in a talker to listener process, be mindful of flat brain syndrome, be an active and empathetic listener, and be more mindful of nonverbal cues. Through this course, I've learned a lot about myself when it comes to communication. I've learned a lot of things to and to put into my communication to become a better communicator, which will help me become a better person, help me build my relationships, and overall will help me become a better counselor. What I want to do for the rest of my life, I want to be able to help people. With counseling, the number one thing is being able to communicate. So I think my action plan will help me be a better communicator. And this course has helped me realize some of my negatives, some of my positives, and has overall will help me become a better overall person. Thank you.